Chelsea are going big this summer, and we need to talk about it right now. Let me ask you something straight away. When was the last time you woke up, checked your phone, and saw not one, but two massive transfer stories linking Chelsea to some of the most exciting players in world football? That is exactly what happened this week, and if you are part of this community and you love Chelsea like we all do, then you need to sit down and read every single word of this post because things are getting very interesting at Stamford Bridge. We are talking about Vinicius Junior from Real Madrid. Yes, that Vinicius Junior, the same man who has been terrorizing defenders in La Liga and the Champions League for years. And we are also talking about Luka Vuskovic, a 19-year-old center back who people in the football world are already calling a generational talent. Two very different players, two very different situations, but both of them connected to Chelsea this summer. So let us get into it properly. Let us break down what we know, what we think, and what it could all mean for our club going forward. Vinicius Junior to Chelsea. Is this actually real? Right, before we get too excited, let us just take a moment to think about what is actually being reported here. Intermediaries, which are basically agents and go-between people in the football world, have contacted Chelsea to let them know that Vinicius Junior could potentially be available this summer. That is the starting point. Now, I know what some of you are thinking. Chelsea get linked to everyone. We have been linked to hundreds of players in the last few years, and most of them never happen. That is completely fair, but this one feels a little different, and here is why. Vinicius is in a contract situation with Real Madrid that has been going on for over 18 months now. Think about that. A year and a half of back and forth with no agreement. Real Madrid have put a new contract offer on the table. Vinicius is open to staying. But an agreement has not been reached, and now Madrid are apparently holding firm on their offer, telling his representatives that they are not going to improve it. So what does that mean in plain terms? It means Real Madrid are not going to keep throwing money at this to get it done. They have drawn a line and said, this is our offer, take it or leave it. And here is the big thing that makes this story make sense from Madrid's side. His current deal runs until 2027. If he does not sign a new contract, Real Madrid would potentially lose him on a free transfer in 2 years' time. No club in the world wants to lose a player of that quality for absolutely nothing. So if there is no new contract, Madrid might decide to sell him and at least get some money for him rather than watch him walk away. That is why a price of £150 million is being discussed. That is the number attached to this deal. Now here is the question I want to ask you all in the comments. Do you think Chelsea should spend £150 million on Vinicius Junior? Yes or no? Simple as that. Let me know what you think. What would Vinicius Junior actually bring to Chelsea? This part is simple because Vinicius is one of the best players in the world right now. He plays as a left winger and there is almost nobody on the planet who does what he does. His pace is frightening. His dribbling is electric. He scores important goals. He creates chances. And in big moments, he can completely take over a game. At 25 years old, he is in the prime of his career. He is not a project. He is not a player you are buying and hoping he develops. He is the finished product right now. You buy Vinicius, and you are buying someone who is already at the very top of the game. For Chelsea specifically, having a player like him would change everything about how teams approach playing against us. When you have someone that dangerous on the left side, defenders have to think twice. Other spaces open up. Other players get more room. It changes the dynamic of the entire team. But then we come to the money side of things, and this is where we need to be honest with ourselves as Chelsea fans. £150 million just as the transfer fee. That is enormous. But it does not stop there. The reports say his wages would be similar to Kylian Mbappe, which would be more than £500,000 per week. And that is just the basic salary. That does not include signing on fees, loyalty bonuses, or performance-related incentives. When you add everything together, you are looking at a financial commitment that is absolutely staggering. And here is another thing the reports mention that I think is very important. It is believed that Vinicius himself is not actively trying to leave Real Madrid right now. He is open to staying. He wants to see if Madrid will improve their offer. So from his end, this is not a situation where a player is desperate to get out and has Chelsea as his dream destination. This is more of a situation where Chelsea and other clubs are circling and keeping a close eye on what happens. The Saudi Pro League is also in the picture, apparently, which adds another layer to this whole thing. So what do we make of all this? My honest read is that this is very early, very exploratory, but it is real enough that intermediaries are making calls and Chelsea are listening. Whether it goes anywhere depends entirely on whether Vinicius signs a new deal with Madrid or not. If he signs, the story dies. If he does not sign, suddenly this gets very serious, very fast. The Vinicius factor and what it says about Chelsea's ambitions. I want to take a step back here for a second because I think there is something bigger to notice in this story beyond just the transfer itself. The fact that Chelsea are even in conversations about Vinicius Junior tells you something about where the club sees itself right now. A few years ago, could you have imagined Chelsea being contacted as one of the few clubs in the world capable of financing a deal of this size? It shows that the people running the club believe they should be competing at the very highest level, and they are putting themselves in the room with the biggest deals in world football. Whether you love or hate the way Chelsea have gone about their transfer business in recent years, you cannot deny that the club has built itself back up to a position where deals like this are at least possible. But here's the flip side of that argument. Some of you will say, and rightly so that Chelsea have spent enormous amounts of money in recent seasons, and the trophies have not come. So before we go spending 150 million on another superstar, we need to make sure we are building a team and not just a collection of expensive individuals. What do you think? Is Chelsea at a point where signing Vinicius would make sense? Or do you think the money could be better spent elsewhere? Drop your thoughts in the comments because I genuinely want to know what the community thinks about this. Now let us talk about Luka Vuskovic. Right, so Vinicius is the big flashy headline, but the second story, in my opinion, is actually just as interesting in a different way and might even be more realistic. Luka Vuskovic is 19 years old. He plays as a center back. He is currently on loan at Hamburger SV in Germany from Tottenham Hotspur, and both Chelsea and Barcelona are reportedly interested in signing him with a price tag of around £60 million being mentioned. Now, before you scroll past this one thinking it is just another young player story, let me explain why people in football circles are so excited about this kid. He is 19. He is already playing senior professional football and doing it well enough that clubs like Chelsea and Barcelona are watching him. For a center back, that is remarkable. Defenders typically take longer to develop than any other position on the pitch. The fact that a teenager is already on the radar of two of the biggest clubs in Europe tells you everything about how highly rated he is. The description that has come out in reports is that he is a mega talent. Now, I know that phrase gets thrown around a lot in football journalism, but when Barcelona and Chelsea are both watching someone, you pay attention. The Tottenham complication here is where the story gets a bit complicated, though. Vuskovic recently spoke about his future, and what he said is really important for Chelsea fans to understand before getting too excited. He said that he will be a Tottenham player again after this season. He acknowledged that he is on loan at Hamburger SV and that his contract with Spurs runs until 2030. That is a long contract for a 19-year-old, and it suggests that Tottenham have him tied down because they believe in him as a future first-team player. Now, does that mean Chelsea cannot get him? Not necessarily. In football, contracts get broken all the time when the price is right. If Chelsea or Barcelona come in with £60 million or more, Tottenham would have to at least sit down and think about it. But it does mean that this will not be an easy deal to do. Spurs are not going to just hand over one of their most exciting young prospects without a serious fight. And here is something interesting to think about. Tottenham would be selling directly to a Premier League rival. Clubs are always very reluctant to do that. The idea of making Chelsea stronger by selling them one of your best young players is a very hard thing for any club to stomach, especially Spurs. That could be a real obstacle, so the question becomes, would Tottenham sell Vuskovic to Chelsea, or would they rather keep him and risk losing him to Barcelona, who at least would be taking him abroad rather than to a direct competitor? What do you reckon? Do you think Spurs would sell him to Chelsea? That is a real debate worth having. Why a center back makes sense for Chelsea right now. Let us think about this from Chelsea's perspective for a moment. The defense has been an area of discussion for a while now. Having a dominant, commanding center back is the foundation of any successful team, and while Chelsea have options in that position, a player who could grow into a genuine world-class defender over the next few years would be a serious long-term investment. At £60 million for a 19-year-old with this kind of potential, you are not just buying a player for today, you're buying someone who could be a cornerstone of the Chelsea defense for the next decade. That is the value in this deal if it can be done. Compare that to Vinicius at 150 million plus enormous wages for a player in his mid-20s. Both have merit, but they serve very different purposes. Vinicius is about winning now. Vuskovic is about building for the future while also contributing now. If Chelsea could somehow do both this summer, that would be extraordinary. But realistically, with the financial commitments involved, you have to wonder which one the club would prioritize if it came down to a choice. Let us compare the two deals. Side by side, I want to lay this out simply so we can all see the picture clearly. Vinicius Junior, age 25, position left winger, price £150 million, club Real Madrid, wages £500,000 per week plus bonuses. Contract situation unresolved with Madrid, not actively looking to leave, Saudi Arabia also interested, risk level very high but reward level also very high. Luka Vuskovic, age 19, position centre back, price £60 million, club Tottenham Hotspur, wages unknown but would be young player rates. Contract situation tied to Spurs until 2030, has said he expects to return to Tottenham. Risk level moderate because of Spurs' reluctance to sell to a Premier League rival. Reward level potentially massive if he reaches his potential. Two completely different profiles, two completely different stories, but both circling the same club at the same time, which tells you that Chelsea are thinking big this summer across multiple positions. What does this mean for Chelsea's summer window? This is the part where I want to zoom out and look at the bigger picture because I think these two stories together tell us something very important about Chelsea's transfer strategy. Chelsea seem to be operating on two tracks simultaneously. On one track, you have the potential for a blockbuster superstar signing in Vinicius, the kind of deal that would make the whole football world stop and pay attention. On the other track, you have the smart long-term investment approach with someone like Vuskovic, buying a young elite talent and developing him into a future star. Both of those approaches make sense. Both of them align with different visions for how you build a successful football club, but they also require a lot of money and a lot of planning to get right. The question that I keep coming back to is this: What does Chelsea actually need most right now to take the next step as a club? Is it a generational left winger who can win you games by himself in big moments? Or is it a defensive foundation built on a dominant young center back who can grow into a leader? There is no perfect answer to that question. It depends on what you believe the team's biggest weakness is, it depends on what the manager wants, and it depends on what players are actually available to sign when the window opens. But the fact that both of these conversations are happening right now, in April, before the summer window even opens, tells you that Chelsea are already deep in their planning. They are not going to wait and react. They are going to go out and attack this window. The community verdict. I want to hear from every single one of you on this one. I have given you the information. I have broken it down as simply and clearly as I can. And now it is your turn to tell me what you think. First question, should Chelsea do everything possible to sign Vinicius Junior this summer, even at £150 million and £500,000 per week wages? Second question, is Luka Vuskovic the kind of player Chelsea should be targeting right now given his age and potential and the difficulty of getting him out of Tottenham? Third question, if Chelsea could only do one of these deals this summer, which one should they choose and why? These are the debates I want to have with you in the comments. This community exists because we all care about Chelsea, we all have opinions, and we all want to see the club succeed. So let the debate begin. A note on being realistic. I always think it is important in these kinds of posts to balance the excitement with a dose of reality. So let me just say this clearly. Neither of these deals is done. Neither of these deals is even close to done right now. These are reports and rumors at a very early stage. A lot of things have to fall into place before either of these becomes reality. For Vinicius, the key domino is his contract situation with Real Madrid. If he signs a new deal, Chelsea's interest becomes irrelevant because he will not be available. Everything depends on those contract talks. For Vuskovic, the key issue is whether Tottenham are willing to sell it all, and specifically whether they are willing to sell to Chelsea. Even if the money is right, the fact that he himself has said he expects to go back to Spurs shows that this is not a player who is pushing to leave. So yes, get excited. Yes, debate it in the comments. Yes, allow yourself to imagine what either of these signings would mean. But also keep your feet on the ground because we have been here before as Chelsea fans, and we know that transfer rumors in April do not always become reality in the summer. Final thoughts. Chelsea are back in the big conversations. Here is what I will leave you with. A few years ago, the narrative around Chelsea was confusion. Too many players, too much spending without direction, a squad that felt overcrowded and underperforming. Some of that criticism was fair. But right now, in April 2026, Chelsea are being mentioned in the same breath as Vinicius Junior, one of the 3 best players in the world. They are being watched by the representatives of players that Barcelona want. They are in conversations that only the biggest clubs in world football can be part of. That means something. It does not mean every deal will happen. It does not mean the problems are all solved. But it does mean that Chelsea are back in the room where the biggest decisions in world football get made. And for those of us who love this club, who follow every transfer story, every training session, every match, that is genuinely exciting. The summer is coming. The window is going to open. And if even one of these 2 stories develops into something real, the whole football world will be talking about Chelsea again. Stay close to this page because as soon as anything moves on either of these stories, we will be covering it immediately with the same level of detail and honesty that you always get from John Chelsea Analysis. Until then, get in the comments, tell me what you think, and let us have the conversation that every Chelsea fan is having right now. We are watching, we are waiting, and this summer might just be the one that changes everything. Up the Blues.